topic. I had like this whole other thing
It's
I wanted
alright.
to ask. I was unclear about this in my research, but I guess I'll ask this as a question. Who released Volcanic Sunlight? Like
Sony.
All right, cool. Like on Amazon, they have it listed as like Columbia.
That is Sony. Columbia and
right.
Sony are the same company.
Cool. All
Yeah.
right. Totally didn't do my research on that end,
Yeah.
but I was reading in the interviews that you like Sony France better as a company because they understood where you were trying to go with the
Oh,
music.
for this album, it was perfect.
Yeah.
It was perfect for me. One, it was really convenient because I was in France, and two, as a business person, a standard French contract for music gives a lot more rights to the artist than a standard American contract.
Okay.
And what is that based on? Real simple. In America, there was a time when most of the musicians were black and the people making the contracts were not. And so a lot of the contracts initially were made to essentially take money from the artists in, sometimes devious ways. So as someone like Ray Charles can be a hero where he demands ownership of his masters. And anybody can own their masters. The first thing you have to do if you want to own your masters, though, is ask for them. So there's a lot of stuff that you don't get if you don't know to ask for it in a standard American contract. That's the whole master plan. It's like, well, you didn't ask. If you ask for stuff, like, oh, you know what you're talking about. They start putting stuff on the table if you know what you're talking about. They taking stuff from the table if you don't know to ask. If you're satisfied by simple things, or you just want an advance, okay. You don't know that your advance is, fully recoupable, or you don't know any of that stuff. So you have to know what to ask. And in France, because their music deals were initially made by French people for French people, they never had the idea of trying to jack the artist. They were trying to be honorable to another French person. That's what their standard contract is. So an artist ends up with about 60, I never did the actual math, but it looks like something like 60% more avenues of income from their standard contract than ours, because it was never intended to be devious. In fact, it was intended to be the exact opposite. Like, I'm going to be fair with you because you're French like me and you have children like me. It's two people who respect each other doing business together, as opposed to someone looking at like, oh, this motherfucker can't even read or write. He just knows how to play the guitar. I could write anything down. You see the difference?
Yes.
So just the deal itself was more in my favor.
And like, given the 10-year span from like when you released your first record to this one, how did you know, how did you go about like learning all this like information?
Oh, you just learn by default. You
Yeah.
you learn by default over time. Granted, I didn't give I was so excited to get my first record deal. I would have signed anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have, I was eager. I was lucky, essentially, because I stumbled on a good lawyer. I was lucky because that first deal ended when Rick Rubin left Sony and went to Island Def Jam. That left a window in my contract that said if they changed mother companies, I could get out. So I was able to get out of my first contract and then go independent and work with Fader. And that was always in my favor because that was dealing with friends. And I was able to learn about that through that, and then I was able to learn more from Trent.
Yeah.
So I've just been learning along the way. Yeah.
Somebody made the comment that the last, the rise and liberation of the guitarist was more of like Trent's sound in the music. But now here on Volcanic Sunlight, you stayed in the studio for a whole year and just produced all the music yourself. So now do you feel like you're giving like the both sides of Saul as like the artist and the producer? Like, I made the beat and I made the rhyme.
Well, I've been doing that for ages. I mean, like the album before, the one with Black Stacy and Grippo and
Saul
List of
Williams.
Demands. Yeah, the Saul Williams album. I made the music for that. So that's always been the case. What's different is that I'm more capable.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot. I've learned from Trent. I've learned from Rick. I've learned from these people, and so I just am a bit more capable than I was before. But that's pretty much the process. I did my first album with Rick Rubin. I did my second album alone because after working with such a huge personality, it's good to just digest what you learn. I did my third album with Trent Reznor. I did my fourth one, not alone, but with a producer that allowed me to work alone and didn't try to change what I did for Nola Tong. And so once again, I could, just feel myself a bit more.
Yeah, I saw you dropping around the word like polyrhythmic a lot. Like when you made the demos, like what were the sounds like that you heard that were missing, or like when you were like cutting the rough tracks?
The demo for Patience sounds exactly like Patience. The only difference is that I'm I'm playing horn sounds on my synthesizer, and I replace them with real horns. Demo for Volcanic Sunlight sounds the exact same. It's just fake horns, real horns. Just about every song sounds. The demos sound just like the album.
Yeah.
The only difference is that I added live drums over a lot of the electronic drums and live horns, but they're pretty much
And you get
all
like
the same.
the bass, well not the bass, was it? You get the harmony with the chords of like the electric and the real. Because like a lot of times when you hear a beat and it has like the synthy bass or like the fake hi-hats, it doesn't sound right. But when you get that crisp snare, like all of a sudden if you got a crisp snare, I feel like
it can change everything.
Yeah, it's more cowbell.
And if you add a living snare to something that's electronic, it can make the whole thing sound like it's living.
Yeah.
You know? Or a hi-hat to that, you know? Like, so it depends. But yeah, that's pretty much the process of just working with people I love collaborating with, and also seeing it, being able to test and monitor my own growth by working alone.
Also, speaking of energies, I know you also, like everybody knows, like you also are a poet and you do acting. Like when do you find the time to like switch? Like it's not like, in my mind sometimes it's like, all right, cool, I'm gonna make a movie today, so I have to think about like people, things, looks, visuals. But if I want to write, I just sit in the corner and there's the world right there. Like how do you switch between the modes? Or is it ever a switch like, I'm not painting now, I'll draw. I'm not drawing now, I'll read.
It's just moods, like sometimes you feel like calling people back, sometimes you don't.
I don't return text.
Sometimes, yeah, exactly. Sometimes you feel like a milkshake, sometimes you feel like a latte. It's just day, a moment, it's just basically what it basically is about is just not letting quote unquote downtime become simply downtime. It's about just utilizing energy. And so there's ideas. It's not that I'm frantic with it, like I have to be doing something, but everything is connected anyway. So it's not a major shift. It depends. But then it's also just about feeling really inspired by something. Like I shot a film last summer in Senegal, and I was inspired by the story. I was inspired by the opportunity, and so it was easy to put everything down and go, this is what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
That's simple.
I guess as a segue of that, of like you being in Senegal, in one of the other interviews, I heard that you met Kanye on a random trip, and you guys were talking about diamonds in Sierra Leone. And from you like showing the treatment of a documentary you had, he went back and changed his scope. Like, did you feel that was like in any kind of way like oddly just dope that you had like that influence that nobody really would know? But it's like I'm glad I got to like talk with that person and like pass on knowledge.
Yeah, that was cool. That's something, that for whatever reason I felt like I wanted to do for a long time, way before that. Like, like for instance, Common is a good friend of mine right now. But before I knew him, when I was just a fan, I used to go to shows and give him books.
Yeah.
Literally. Like, I remember hearing him talking about the Tao, but he said Teo, study Teo, the lessons. I was like, the Tao. I wonder if he knows this version of the Tao. Because at the time, I was just in acting school, and I was meditating a lot.
Yeah.
And so I was like, Kama needs a better version of the Tao. And I heard him say something else in a book that made me think of Hazrat Inyat Khan about the power of sound. And so I remember buying a few copies of that book and going to a Root show and giving one to Tariq and one to Rashid, and just being like, yo, I bought these for y'all don't know me, and I was that weird dude.
Sometimes you gotta be.
But the one thing I never got confused was the idea of the power of music and the power of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? That was it. It was just like, oh, if these guys read this, they might put it in a song and it might affect something, because I hear them trying to do that already. So, okay, I have a bit more time on my hands because I don't have a career right now. I'm just in school. I'm a student. I'm getting financial aid. They're paying me to read.
Yeah.
So I'm like using a little bit extra of my money. I got an extra copy of the book. I'm gonna give it to a rapper because it might be able to use it in one of his rhymes. It might, inspire something. So that when I'm sitting back listening next time, it won't be like, did he just pronounce the Tao wrong? Yeah.
That's a personal mission when you make it like, all right, I want to make sure you can at least say this word correctly.
No, it was just shit like that, which was just, I've always inspired by hip hop. From the time I was a kid, I grew up on hip hop, it inspired me. And so going to concerts and eventually meeting people and being able to go backstage, it's like, what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
You know, build
so,
or
in terms of like having the Dead MC Scrolls, like how is the response from like other people just dealing with that book? Because like when I read it, like I bought your book. Like actually, girls have only bought my books. Like girls that I know that I've been with, like girlfriends, like, oh, you really like Saul? I'll buy your books. So I make it a mission not to buy it unless they buy it. So I had to buy Dead MC Scrolls myself though. So it was like, yes, it's like a personal gift. Like how do you feel like when you pass that on to other people when they like really decipher, like not even the book but just some of the poems like inside of it?
To me, it's a nice release. You know, just I mean, it's the Scrolls are what, the fourth book. You know, so I think the most personal a book ever felt was She.
Yeah.
You know, like when I put out She, that's when I felt like I'm putting out something kind of personal. But even that was like, that felt good. It always feels good.
Yeah.
It feels good to just release it. But, you know, at that point, like I borrowed that book from somebody I saw with it 3 days ago. This was my first time seeing it in ages, you know. And
it's kind of been right.
And I looked through it and I was like, oh wow, yeah, this is cool. And I showed my girlfriend. I was like, did you see this? This is my old book. And no, I don't know. I don't think about. All I know is the intention I put into it, and the intention is real simple. The intention is exactly what whoever was helping me with that poem, like go back and find out so you can look. That's the intention. The intention of the Dead MC Scrolls was, if a 15-year-old kid is going to read one book for a year and he's in some sort of juvenile after-school program and the teacher's cool enough to hand this to him, I want him to pick up something so that he's surprised to see himself in it. You know, like, so it looks intimidating because it's poetry, but then when you read it and it's on some like, bitch, nigga, gun, sugar, dick's bigger, you're going to go, the fuck is this? And that's the only response that I was playing with. It's just, how do I get that? How do I get someone to feel like, oh, this book is me?
Yeah.
You know, and to use that to elevate. That was the whole thing with that book. So, yeah.
When I found out about like the Night Watch recordings or whatever, like I don't know, I feel like most times like I find out about things late. Like I feel
the what?
Like the Night Watch recordings, or like I call it Night Watch. Maybe it's nigga what? It's like NGW.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What's the proper title? Because I totally.
Oh, Night Watch. I like that. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's cool. No, it's nigga what?
Yeah.
But Night Watch is cool. I'm gonna use that too.
Yeah.
It's whatever.
Like what brought? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, like how did you get into working with the orchestra?
That happened because it said the shotgun to the head. I started working with this Swiss composer around the time it said the shotgun to the head, and he wrote a symphony for that book. And so then when I finished this book, he wanted to do a new symphony, and so I sent him nigga what. In fact, the first time I said either poem, I recorded it.
Yeah.
And I gave it to this guy Thomas Kessler, and so he has my original intonation and where the emphasis is and the rhythms, and his main thing is like, will you keep these rhythms? I'm like, yeah, this is how I wrote it. I'll remember this. I know the rhythms. I know how I wrote it. It's like, okay, so then he does time signatures and creates whole pieces around them. So the nigga what thing was written for a string quartet.
Okay.
And so I didn't do it. I didn't do any of the music or anything like that. I just handed it over to Thomas. You know, that he's a 78-year-old Swiss composer.
Yeah.
And it's fun for him. I just like seeing him listening to those crazy lyrics that he hardly understands, going, I hear a cello. I'm like, okay, all right.
I mean, it just seems like such an interesting feat, though. Like when I look at like other people that are influenced by you, and then seeing you guys come back together and work again, it's just like, man, that's crazy. I think like from the outside of the fan is watching, it's like, I don't know if he anticipated that to happen, but damn, it's cool.
Yeah, exactly. No, most of the stuff I don't anticipate to happen, but I'm gonna have the same response, like, oh, that's cool.
Cool. Well, I think that's it.
All right,
I'm gonna
yeah,
get
we got a sound check.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much again,
no
man.
worries, bro. What's your name again?
I'm Mike 5, but
Mike 5.
yeah, my actual name is Michael Garrett, but Mike 5 will do. Nice
Cool,
to meet
man.
you. It's been so long. It's like I'm so happy to be sitting here in this chair, just rocking with you. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate it. Have a good one. Thank you guys again.
Thank you.
Brother, I don't believe in time. How would you know that?
Long story short, my stupid Irish point has been made, and funny ride. Somebody was going back with it.
The Gregorian calendar. One more time for the Gregorian calendar. We out before the lunar calendar, but one more time. I stand on the corner of the block slinging amethyst rocks. Drinking 40s of Mother Earth's private nectar stock, dodging cops. As 5-0 be the 666 and I need to fix it that purple rain. Type of shit that drives membranes insane. Oh yeah, I'm in the fast lane, snorting candy yams that free my body and soul and send me like Shazam. Never question who I am, God knows, and I know God personally. In fact, she lets me call her me. I be born with rain and stars and things with dancing feet and watermelon wings. I brings the sunshine and the moon and the wind blows my tune. Meanwhile I spoon powder drum beats in the plastic bags, selling kilos of kente skag, taking drags off of collards and cornbread, freebasing through saxophones and flutes like mad. The high notes make me space float. I be exhaling in rings that circle Saturn, leaving stains in my veins and astrological patterns. Yeah, I'm serious, B. Doggone niggas plotted shit lovely, but the feds is also plotting me. They're trying to imprison my astrology, put my stars behind bars, my stars in stripes, using blood-splattered banners as naturalist kites. But I control the wind, that's why they call it the hawk. I am Horus, son of Isis, son of Osiris, worshipped as Jesus, resurrected like Lazarus. But you can call me lazy. I'm lazy because I'd rather sit and build than work in plowed field, worshipping the daily yield of cash green crops. Yeah, evolution stopped the evolution of your technology, a society of automatic tellers and money machines. Nigga, what? My culture is lima beans and tambourines. Dreams manifest, dreams real, not consistent with rationale. I dance for no reason, for reason you can't dance, caught in the inactiveness of intellectualized circumstance. You can't learn my steps until you unlearn your thought. Spirit, soul can't be store-bought. Fuck thought, leads to simply stated leads to you. Trying to figure me out, intellect is figuring your soul. Your being's on hold, check your flag, check your stars and stripes. Your astrology is imprisoned by your concept of white, black, or self. Social constructs, yet and still. If I could find the spot where truth echoes, I would stand and whisper memories of my children's future. I would let their future dwell on my past so they might live a brighter now. Now is the essence of my domain, and it contains all that was and will be. And I am as I was and will be, because I am and always will be that nigga.
Yes!
I am that nigga. I am that timeless nigga that swings on pendulums like vines through minds of booby-trapped minds and enslaved by time. I'm the life that supersedes lifetimes. I am. It was me with serpentine hair and a timeless stare that with the mortal glance and mortal fear and the stone time capsules. They still exist as I do. The Walking Dead, the original sufferhead, symbol of life and matriarchy's severed head. Medusa. I am. It was me, the ecclesiastical one, who pointed out that there was nothing new under the sun, and through times of laughter and times of tears, that no times of real times is all times of fear, the wise, serious Solomon I am. It was me with tattered clothes that made you scatter as you shuffled past me on the street. Yes, you shuffled past me on the street as I stood there conversing with wind-blown spirits, and I fear it's yours. You didn't stop and talk to me. I could have told you your future's like explain your present, but instead, I'm the homeless schizophrenic resent for being aimless, the into nameless. I am. I am that nigga. I am that nigga.
Yeah.
I am that nigga. I'm a Negro, yes, Negro from necro, meaning death. Overcame it, so they named me after it. And I be spitting that death behind and putting kick me signs on its back. Because I am not the son of Shaklack Clack. I am before that. I am before death is eternity. After death is eternity, there is no death. There's only eternity. And I'm riding on the wings of eternity like, yeah, quack, quack. Bitch, nigga, gun trigger,
Dick's bigger, why fuck?